Good morning, students of class 9. Welcome back to the online classes. And we are doing geography today, the climate. So now today we'll do factors affecting India's climate. We'll learn about various factors that affect climate of a place or a country. So there are a number of factors such as latitude, altitude. In our previous class also we have talked about some, and wind pressure, pressure of the atmospheric pressure and the wind, distance from the sea, and relief we have talked about. So we'll talk about one by one. Today we'll talk about these two, latitude and altitude. Latitudes. Now, as you have already learned in previous classes, the Tropic of Cancer passes through the middle of our country, India, from the Rann of Kutch in Gujarat, that is in the west, to Mizoram in the east. From Rann of Kutch, an imaginary line passes through India and passes Mizoram in the east. This imaginary line, the Tropic of Cancer, that is 23.5 degrees above the equator. So the Tropic of Cancer passes through the middle of our country, India, from Rann of Kutch in Gujarat, that is in the west, to Mizoram in the east. That means this imaginary line, the Tropic of Cancer, divides our country into two sections. Half of the country lying south of this Tropic of Cancer, belongs to tropical area. Tropical means hot and wet. This area experiences hot and wet climate, whereas remaining area lying to the north of Tropic of Cancer belongs to subtropic. Subtropic means hot and dry, that is temperate, hot and dry area. So that means India experiences two types of climates, hot and wet, hot and dry. It is because of this Tropic of Cancer. So now, below the Tropic of Cancer, in summer the sun rays are direct. From Tropic of Cancer above towards the north, the sunlight reaches here in a slanting position, in a slanted way. So that's why you have two different type of climates over here. India's climate has the characteristics of tropical and subtropical, hot and wet and hot and dry characteristics. In the tropical climate, we'll talk about hot and wet. In the tropical climate, the sun shines very brightly in the morning's time till 12 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock, till 1 o'clock. Then after that, the water, which is water on the ground or in the ponds or lakes or rivers, it evaporates and goes up in the sky. There will be convection current. And by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, it rains heavily. It rains very heavily. And in the next day again, in the morning session, you will have a hot weather, hot climate. The sun shines brightly. And again in the afternoon, it rains. In the morning, it sun shines. In the afternoon, it rains because the water evaporates. This is hot and wet. Tropical climates are like that. Tropical climates are hot and wet. It rains most of the time. So, such as equatorial climate. And the remaining areas are hot and dry. It doesn't rain much there. Then why does it rain in our country above this Tropic of Cancer. Do you know what is the meaning? Why it is? Because of the Himalayas. If Himalayas were not there, the northern India would have been turned into a desert, because most of the desert lie in this subtropical areas. Yeah, subtropical areas. Most of the desert in the world lies in the subtropical areas because it is hot and dry. The North India would have been turned into a desert if Himalayas had not been there. The Himalayas are there, that's why it will check the monsoon wind and it rains over here. So India experiences two types of climates, hot and wet and tropical, and hot and dry, subtropical. So now that must for latitudes. Now we'll talk about altitudes, the heights of the land above the sea level. We know that India has mountains in the north, that's a boundary, a wall like. India has a mountains in the north with the average height of 6,000 meters above sea level. Average height. Some mountains are more than that, 8,000 meters, some are 5,000 meters, 4,000 meters. The average, you know what average means, you have learned in your mathematics. Average height of these mountains, Himalayan mountains, are 6,000 meters above the sea level. That's very high. 6,000 meters means 6 kilometers from the sea level to the upright. So 6,000 meters. That means the Himalayas, there are a number of benefits. Himalaya provides us a number of benefits. The Himalayas stop the cold wind from Central Asia, that is Arctic blast, we can say that, Arctic blast. The Himalayas prevent the cold wind from Central Asia from entering or reaching India. The Himalayas protect us during winter. So it protects India from the cold blast of the Arctic wind from entering India, and we experience mild winter, not very cold. Mild means bearable, mild winter compared to Central Asia. Here in India, winters, it is comfortable, not very cold. But you go beyond that Himalayas, the winters are very extreme. The temperature reaches 45, minus 45, minus 50, sometimes minus 50 plus. It reaches there. Why? Because of the Arctic winds, and the Himalayas protect us from this Arctic blast, and we have mild winter over here. Sometimes this wind enters from the western side and the eastern side, and we have the cold wave. Sometimes, not every year, sometimes the wind, the force of the wind will be great, exceeds, then it enters India from both sides. Not much, but we have cold wave over here because of this. So the Himalayas altitudes protect us from the cold blast of the Arctic wind in winter. And in the south also we have hills and not very high mountains, hills. These hills, Western Ghat is higher than the Eastern Ghat. We have learnt in our previous class, chapter 1. And this Western Ghat checks the monsoon wind, and you will have a good rain in the western side of the Western Ghats. And the eastern side remains the eastern side of the Western Ghat remains the rain shadow area, dry region. So now altitude also affects the climate of a place, such as latitudes and altitude. Now next time we will talk about atmospheric pressure and wind system our country experiences. So we will talk about that. The wind system is quite long, so we will talk about that in our next class. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Go through online portal every day, so that you will learn part by part properly, clearly. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching.